Good evening. I'm Pastor Vernon Shazier. Welcome to Man to Man. It is a platform in which we talk about issues that we face and we wrestle with as men. You know, so often we have conversations in the barber shop and under the tree and in a variety of settings, and the conversations seem to always surround sports and entertainment or politics. What we seek to do here on Man to Man is to have that same type of candid, transparent conversation, but discuss issues that will help and aid us in becoming a better man, a better husband, a better father, a better parent, because we can have, great conversations and debates in the barber shops about who's the best wide receiver, who is the GOAT of this and that, but we don't walk away from those conversations with new insights and tools to help us be better as men and fathers. And so that's what Man to Man is all about. And I'm blessed tonight to have with me Malty Moore. He is one of those who has a lot of accolades behind his name. He's played for that great undefeated team with the Miami Dolphins. He also played for the Buccaneers. He decided to wear the Buccaneers jersey today. I know that must have been a tough choice because both of your teams lost yesterday. So you probably tossed the coin. And then I have with me also my big brother, Maurice Shazier, and they're joining me in this discussion tonight as we talk man to man, real conversations about real issues. Tonight's topic, we're going to be talking about rewriting your life script. And if you are viewing, I want to encourage you to invite a brother, invite a friend, a nephew, another man to join this conversation. I believe it will be one that will give some insight and also empowerment in helping you live and evolve in your manhood in a whole lot of areas in your life. Malty and Maurice, won't y'all greet our audience tonight, and then we're going to get it going. You okay? I know both of your teams went down yesterday.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm
Okay.
good right now, but
Okay.
the Dolphins they should get it back together.
Okay,
And Brady,
all right.
Brady already have it together.
All right. Maurice, he glowing. The Cowboys won, so he's glowing. He's on top of the world today. But those Cowboys they'll make you laugh and they'll make you cry. Listen, let's get it started. I want to encourage you to get this book. The book that we're reading and going through is called Men's Secret Wars by Patrick Means. Men's Secret Wars. I think, men, you will find it helpful and insightful in helping you understand and answer some questions that you may have that puzzles you. Let me begin by sharing with you a quote that I thought was appropriate for tonight's topic. Again, we're talking about rewriting your life script. Terry Catalog says, pain from our past that is unresolved is pain we're condemned to repeat. Let me read that quote again. Pain from our past that is unresolved is pain we're condemned to repeat. And what he's suggesting is that when you have pain from your past that you have ignored, you've avoided, you failed to address, or you may not even be conscious of the impact that it is having on your life, it will cause you to repeat some behaviors that does not aid you in being successful in a particular area of your life. Means begins this chapter by speaking metaphorically about the brain as being a depository, the brain as being that place where we house so much. It has been said that the battle is always a battle of the mind, and that is true because it is in the mind where we store, it is in the mind where so much of how we view life, our paradigms of life are shaped and housed. And you have to be careful what you allow to be deposited in the mind, because your psychology will have an impact on your sociology. In many cases, when you examine your sociology, that's how you behave about issues, how you behave with others, how you interact with others. That's your sociology. In most cases, that is being driven by your psychology. That's how you think, and the paradigms and how your mind has been programmed. And that is the core of what Mings is getting at in this chapter as he talks about rewriting your life script. And so I want to say, first of all, to all those who are viewing, it doesn't matter what you have experienced in the past that has caused you pain, that has caused you challenge. You may be over it. You may be trying to get over it. It may still come back at times and haunt you. You can rewrite your life script. You can rewrite your life script. And so, metaphorically, take that picture as we have this conversation tonight. The brain, metaphorically, see it as a depository, a place where thoughts are stored, ideas are stored, your paradigms are stored, where your programming takes place. And in most cases, means stresses that the programming happens and occurs during those developmental years of your life, during the times of you're a child, during the times when you're an adolescent. And those are really the most vulnerable years of your life, because that is the time in which your mind and your thoughts and your ideas are being shaped. That is when deposits are being made. And the reality about life is that we are individuals who receive positive and negative deposits. The focus of tonight's conversation is to really get you to do a real critical analysis of your life script. And is there any scripts in your life that is having a negative impact? You need to do this, and it is important because you can never conquer what you're not willing to face. And so if you're going to move beyond something that is hindering you from your past, from your childhood, a way of thinking that has been programmed in your psychology and it manifests itself in your sociology, you have to be willing to confront it. And so let me begin by asking this question, and Maurice, you and Malta can chime in. I don't know, I'm pretty sure you experienced some of the same things I did as you was reading this chapter. It just had me thinking about so many experiences that I had as a childhood and as a teenager, negative experiences that I did not realize the impact they had on my life, but they did go with me from childhood to adulthood, and they impacted my behavior, my thinking, and my adulthood. Was there any particular experience that came to mind to you as you read this chapter and thought about, you know what, I need to rewrite this script in my life. This is something I was taught, something that was programmed, an experience that I had, and as I've evaluated my life and given thought to it, it is a script that needs to be rewritten. It is a script that I need to address. I need to confront it honestly and just be real with myself and the impact that it has on me and the impact that it has on others. And I need to rewrite this script. You know, who wants to go first? Either one of you can.
Well, throughout my high school and in my life, I was involved in sports, but my biggest thing that kind of affected me as a young person, I had a serious speech impediment, so I would avoid. If I knew the answer, I would avoid it. If I saw a young lady I liked, I wouldn't say nothing to her because the speech would come in. And as I got older, I took some speech therapy class, and I found out once I left my environment and went to, say, New York or Los Angeles, nobody knew me in it, and I just talked normal. But if I go back to my hometown and some of my homeboys, that's the first thing they bring up, and it kicks it in. So, and I think that's the main thing that kind of repeat itself in my life, and just being poor. When you're being poor, and you know, that had a serious effect on me. You know, because a lot of things I knew I wasn't gonna have a bicycle. I knew I wasn't gonna have a new clothes. So, but I've learned to my kids, I probably have given them too much, you know, to avoid that, you know, that feeling, you know. So, but now I feel good about myself, and I'm able to take care of myself, and you know, and I often, if somebody make me upset, I'll just tell them, you can't tell Baltimore nothing. I'm gonna do what I want to do, and so it doesn't bother. But when I was a teenager, I would never say that.
So that speech impediment challenge that you had as a child, it went with you into your adulthood, but it sounds like at some point you confronted it and you decided to take action to rewrite that script, to improve in that area.
Yes, that was time when I was at Bethune. They were trying to decide on a football captain, and I wanted to be it, but when I saw they had to give speeches, and I just kind of just backed away from it, you know. So, but like I took the speech therapy, and I heard last time when you said that you went to a lot of speech classes, and I found out that it worked, you know. So, but I cannot be around my homeboys who really know me, and I can't be around them. So I have to. I taught class for 37 years at Sheridan, and the students they was not aware because my job was to help them in their reading, math, and language, and I did.
What you're describing, many men wrestle with. I don't think sometimes we're even conscious of it, that you have this, and I'm using the example you're giving, you have this speech impediment, and what it does to you, it holds you back.
Yes.
It causes you to have a phobia for speaking up, doing public speaking.
Yes.
But again, I hear in there that at some point you decided that would no longer be a hindrance or a shackle to you, and you say, you know what, I can rewrite this script, and that's what this conversation, that's what this chapter where Means talks about rewriting your life script is all about, is you having the courage and the willingness to evaluate your life and see, is there an area that is from my past, but it's impacting me in a negative way in the presence, and I need to deal with it, I need to address it. And many times we avoid it. What about you, Maurice, did. But what was your thoughts as you read this chapter, and Means talked about, the fact that even we don't leave it in our childhood. We bring it into our adulthood, and if we do not address it or face it, it can not only have a negative impact in our life, but it can have a negative impact in the life of those who are connected with our children, our wives, significant others, even people we work with. What caught you or gripped you as you read this chapter?
One of the biggest things that grabbed my attention as I was reading the Men's Secret Wars, and it began to describe how certain traits began from parenthood and you inherited them from your parents, and it describes the Bible as saying some of the sins of the fathers carried on to the second and third generation going down the line. And as I began to think about some of the things that I realized that I probably carried on from my parents, and that is my mother had me at a very young age. I'm the oldest of all my mother's children. And one of the things I can see as I was reading that chapter was that I have 3 different baby mamas. And when I look back from my childhood, it was a thing that my mother kind of ran from, and acknowledging the fact that we were from different daddies, but she kept us together. And without me even realizing it, but as I was reading that book, I began to realize how I followed in her footsteps. And I began to realize that, and this is where I admire you in the area of fatherhood and parenthood. I didn't really understand how deep that affected my children until I became an adult, and I realized that by me having kids from different females, they would have different characteristics, different struggles, different learning curves. And I always kept my children together because I wanted them to seem like they were raised under one roof, when all reality is that I had my time with them, but then they had their time with their mother, and I did my best to keep them together, whereas our mother, she did whatever it took to keep us together up under one roof. Therefore, we were raised with the same belief systems, believing in God. We was raised with the same educational beliefs to get a great education. We were raised with the same disciplines as to work hard for whatever you want, be honest, But later on in life, even though I strayed from that, I realized that now it's very important in my life to understand that you kept all your children under one head. They have the same bloodline. They have the same thing flowing through their systems. Now, they're very different, even though, you got the father's side and you got the mother's side, and they inherited some of your side and some of her side. But the difference is they came home to you every day and night. Therefore, they didn't leave your presence, and when they get over across town with the other mama, they being, taught one thing or seeing another thing. Then they come back to me, and I'm trying to figure out where you got that from, you know what I mean? So in that book, it really helped me realize that some things, without you even realizing it or not, it comes from the cradle on up, and then now you have to do your best to try to make it right and to try to gel it all back together.
Well, you keep this metaphor, those who are viewing. The mind is a depository. It is where programming takes place. It is where so many words, so many thoughts are stored, and many of the hours of data and storage that we have in our mind, we received it from our house, we received it from our parents. Now Means raises an interesting issue here. He says, often we are not willing to have a conversation and deal with negative programming that we've received from our parents because we don't want to come across as condemning our parents, putting them down. But it's necessary that we identify those areas. Listen, parents are humans. Parents make positive and good deposits in our life, and they also make bad. There's no perfect parent. And so I like the idea that he stressed that when we evaluate what programming we received from our parents, we received in the house, that the goal is not to so much condemn our parents, but it is for us to identify, okay, mommy and daddy, they're not God, they're not perfect. Some things they got right, some things they got wrong, but the things or the areas that was programmed in me and instilled in me that has a negative impact on me, and it's impacting how I live my life and how I do life, I need to address that, and I can do it, and I'm not doing it with the goal to embarrass or to create any harm or disrespect to my parents, because I do think that plays a major role when you start evaluating, okay, what was I taught in the house? What was modeled in the house? What programming took place during my adolescence, during my childhood, during my teenage years from my parents, and what are those aspects of the programming that was negative and it is carried into my adulthood, and I need to address it.
So if I may say this, Pastor Malty, this was a real conviction and stronghold for our mother, right? Like, it was like for her to have children from different dads was like in that day an embarrassment sort of thing, right? But then keeping it 100, as I look back at the womanizer that I was back when I was in my most sinful state, you've been involved with some women that when they love hard, right? So when they think they got the guy that's that guy, and they love him with everything in them, and then they have a baby from this guy only to find out that he ain't that guy, then they move on and they think they found the right guy number two, and they love so hard and they give everything they got to that guy number two, end up having a baby from guy number two only to find out that guy number two was on the same BS that guy number one was on. And so all I try to say is that when I look at how I turned out through many mistakes, my life is an open book, through how my brother turned out, how my sister turned out. Mom, you did an extraordinary job. It was nothing of your fault as to how, things went with you or how we turned out or whatever decisions we made. It wasn't because you didn't do a good job or you weren't a great woman. Every man got his own choice. And when you make a choice, it can't be, when we F up or do the wrong thing, like, mom say, well, I failed in that area. You know what I mean? Because I know my mom didn't fail in some of the areas and decisions that I made. That was on me. That's what my flesh wanted to do. But when I had kids from different women, it wasn't shameful to me. It was a badge of honor to me versus it was an absolute disgrace to her. So men and women look at the situation differently. You know, like I look at it as
Well, let me jump in. Let me jump
Yes,
in. You said having children from different women was not an embarrassment to you, but a badge of honor. Now we know that shouldn't be a badge of honor.
Yes, faulty
So
thinking. Yes.
would you say that that way of thinking is a part of how you was programmed in your younger years to think about manhood, think about how you should treat a woman, think about commitment, and think about the importance of a father being in the house with the children. And so because we were programmed, and I know what you're talking about, most of us, many of us, we're programmed at a very young age that the definition of manhood is about profit and pleasure.
Yes.
You know how many women you can sleep with, and money, and getting things, but that's a faulty script.
Absolutely.
Yet it is a script that when we look in and take an honest look and have an honest conversation about the family structure in our community, it is a script that many men have been given at a young age and carried it into the adulthood, and it has had an impact, a negative impact, not only on their life, but the whole family structure. And whenever you have the family structure having a negative impact, you then will see the community having a negative impact. And so for many of men who have received that programming, who have been given that script, and like I said, that was the same script I was given. And it's a faulty script. And it is a script that I believe that Means is getting at. This is a script that once you identify, and as you're viewing and listening to this, brothers, again, you have to be honest. If you're going to be the man who God wants you to be, the husband, the father, and walk in the integrity, not perfection, but with some degree of integrity, you have to be willing to look at that person in the mirror, you, and ask yourself, are there any scripts that I'm playing out, I'm living out in my life that was programmed in me, that was given to me at a young age, that I carried into an adulthood, that I need to rewrite it? It means he says there are three scripts that we're given that he talks about in this chapter. The first script is rules. He says rules, and when he talks about rules, he's talking about rules that we were given in the home, the home rules, and some rules are healthy and appropriate, some are not. And he gives some examples of some unhealthy rules. He says, here's some of the rules we are taught, some of the rules that are programmed into us at an early age. Don't talk about anything that upsets your parent or about opinions your parents disagree with. Don't think for yourself or form your own convictions. The adult will tell you what to believe. Don't feel any bad emotions such as anger or sadness or disappointment. We're even taught, we're, as young men, young boys, we're not supposed to cry. We're not supposed to show affection or anything that, resemble what, the boys are called being soft. We have these rules that are programmed in us as a child, as an adolescent, and we carry them into our adulthood, and often they are a hindrance. I mean, just think about it. If you're programmed as a child and as an adolescent not to be an independent thinker, not to think for yourself, to always just go along with what is said, what is presented. He talks about not only rules, he talks about roles. But before we move to roles, what's your thoughts about rules? Are there any rules that you were taught or you knew was prevalent in your community that was negative, that was detrimental, and they was carried into adulthood, and men manifest them, and they cause them to live not healthy and productive, but display behaviors that is detrimental. Any rules that comes to you that it may have been rules that you were imposed upon you in the house, may have been rules that was imposed in the community?
Well, my mother always taught me, always have faith in God, always work, and always get a sound education, and respect young ladies, and that's still within me, and I think it's good, but sometimes it comes in negative because I meet a lot of lady friends, and we just become friends, and never hit a woman or girl, and many young ladies who I knew, if I was going to the party, they would go because they knew I wasn't going to allow anything wrong to happen to them. And I have 3 daughters. All 3 of them finished high school, all 3 of them finished college, and all 3 of them got a job. And I think that it's more of a positive rule, but it go back, my mother always taught God, work, be around good people, and make sure you get a good education and work. And right now, my daughters, one is 28 and one is 41 and one is 46. And I find myself telling them the same thing, over and over again, about life, about the red flags of a man, and always make sure you have enough money to take care of yourself, because sometimes a man may walk off from you, but it didn't, I don't think, anybody who know me, meet me, they know I always had a job. I wasn't going to treat anybody unfair. So I can remember a couple times, I might borrow your brother's bicycle and bring it home, and Mama know I didn't have no money. She'll make it in the middle of the night. Take that bicycle back. So as a result, I don't steal that. I don't do that. Right. But I could never do anything illegal because she would harass me all night, and be home at a certain time at night. I remember one time my mother beat me. I came home maybe about 12 or 1 o'clock, and one rule was you be home, you don't be out. And she wanted to beat me, and I climbed the tree. She threw rocks at me and everything. So I had to come down, hold my head, and let her beat me in order to go to sleep. But rules, I believe in rules. I follow rules all the time.
Well, rules are important. What means is asking us to do, and I'm trying to guide us in this conversation, is to ask yourself the question. Well, basically, I'm challenging you tonight, again, to look at that man in the mirror. No matter what age you is, you're a male, look at that individual in the mirror and be honest and do an honest evaluation. Is there any scripts that you are living out, acting out, that was programmed to you, that was taught to you, that you need to rewrite? And that's the core of tonight's message and discussion, is that there are some negative scripts in our lives that we're living out, that we practice. and they have been detrimental to our life. They've been detrimental to our family. They've been detrimental to our community. But the good news is we have the power to rewrite him and write a new script. It means he says rules, and when there are negative rules, unhealthy rules that we're taught when we're children and we carry them into adulthood, they will cause us to have negative impacts in not only our life but others. But then he talks about roles. I thought it was interesting when he talked about the roles, because this really resonated with me, because particularly in the African American community, young men are often asked to play roles that they're not mature enough to handle, they're not old enough, but because of the family dynamics, or sometimes the family dysfunction, sometimes because of a father is not in the house, we're forced to take on roles that really is an adult role. He talks about the hero role. The hero role is achieve success at school, uphold family name, cover family shame, provide vicariously experiences of success for parents, just that whole hero role. And there are so many cases I can remember with me and my friends and others who grew up in the same context, in the projects, no father in the house. We had it put on our shoulders as a child, as a teenager, to kind of take on a hero role, to take responsibilities that we sometimes were not ready or able. And sometimes, even if our parents did not impose the rule on us, the role on us, we felt the need ourselves. And I've seen that in many cases where you have young men living in poverty, living in dysfunctional families, not having adequate means, and they take on that role of being provider. And in many cases, when they take on that role, it leads them into a life of illegal entrepreneurship. And then that just gets deeper and darker. You begin taking on that role at a young age, and you get involved in illegal entrepreneurship, which in most cases leads to our young men getting felony charges at a young age, which you can never get rid of. It goes with you all the way to your adult life, and it impacts in so many ways. And that is a situation that we're dealing with in the African American community. So many young men felt like I need to take on the hero role. I need to take on the provider. I need to do something to help. And even if that something means me doing something illegal, me doing something that's wrong, I need to do it. I just feel the need to take on this role. And I'm sure all of you can relate to that, because that is just a reality that exists in a community whenever you're dealing with not enough, or you're dealing with poverty. So often it is the male that, if it's not imposed upon him, sometimes he takes on that role himself, and then you carry that role into your adult life, when the reality is, when you take on that hero role, that is a pressure that you wrestle and you live with every day, that you've got to be Superman. In reality, you're just a human, you're just a man. And you think about that hero role?
Well, when the author, Mr. Means, began to talk about the hero role in the book, it immediately gripped my whole spirit because all my life I've taken on that role. By me being the oldest of my mother's children, at 7 years old, she taught me how to wash dishes, fold clothes, wash clothes. On up through life, by me being the oldest, I always had to keep my siblings, make sure they did what mama said. When my mother began to go through a very abusive relationship and marriage, and she was going through a bitter divorce, we moved to Fort Lauderdale, struggling. We went from a family in one house to the projects to living in poverty. You know, I took on the hero role thinking that, okay, I got to help my mom get out this situation. As a result of that, I got involved in illegal activity, taking on the hero role, selling drugs, getting involved with drugs. And even though it afforded me the opportunity to bring my family up out of the gutter, you know, to give them everything that we never had, you know, so to speak, it was stiff consequences behind that. And it even went further into relationships. I found myself always getting involved with females that I had to take care of, and I had to carry all the weight for these broads. And that led to that same hero mentality until at some point it led me to a place where a place of imprisonment where God sat me down and made me understand that I'm not the hero. You know, he the hero, you know, but I felt like I always had to be the rescuer of somebody, you know what I mean? And it's until this very day, I'm trying to release that mentality out of my spirit because, you know, in one way it handicaps people, whether it's your children or whether it's females. You know, when people realize you got the hero mentality, their mentality is they automatically take the back seat and say, well, Monty, you know, he got bread, he make more than I make, or he, you know, he gonna make sure we good, so I ain't really gotta do all that much, you know what I mean? And it's a faulty way of thinking, but, you know, in one side of the fence, we enjoy being the hero, but at the other side of the fence, when we're not receiving or being reciprocated back what we think is fair, then it really bothers us. So it messed me up because I said, you know what? He's talking about me, and the role that I've seemed to have been in all my life is the hero role. You know what I mean? So,
And it brings a lot of pressure on you. He talks about the hero role, but he also talks about the rebel. And I know we are familiar with that too. So some choose to take on the hero role, or the hero role is forced upon them. Then there are those who choose to take on the rebel. The rebel just, I'm going to do what I want to do.
right.
I don't want nobody to tell me anything. I don't want to follow no rules. I'll make my own rules as they go. And here's the danger of that. And again, I want to continue to stress is that we develop this thinking and this programming during our adolescent years, and we carry them into adulthood. Once you become an adult, the consequences of your decisions are much greater. I mean, when you're in the 5th grade and you're a little rebel, you're in the 8th grade, you're a little rebel, you know, you're rebellious, you know, the punishments are a minimum you get on punishment. You can't go to the dance, you can't go to the skating ring, you know, whatever it is, your mom or dad chooses to use as a form of punishment. But the danger as an adult, when you continue to play out, live out that script as a rebel, as one who has no respect for your own person, and neither respect for others and the properties of others, the consequences are much greater. And there may be someone who's viewing this conversation tonight, and you are an adult, but you're still playing the hero role, or you're an adult and you're still playing the rebel role. But the rebel role gives you some consequences that are much greater and punitive than when you're 12 and 13 years old. If that's you, that's a life script that needs to be rewritten. Did you want to chime in on that, Marty?
Well, my life is similar, except Brooksville, Florida, there was no true crime to get into, but I was trained to work. If I went out at 10, 12 and made $12, I got to bring it home. And I still believe in hard work. And but I look at the fact that, like, my mother always stressed God, work, and don't steal nothing. Don't do anything illegal. And she also explained it that if you get locked up, we ain't got no money, so we cannot get you out of jail. And I followed that, and I did a horse playing. I mean, to prove that I was a strong man, I might, if you had a Volkswagen, I'll flip it over just to. It's fun.
So you flipping over cars.
Yeah, it was, but I learned.
So you was playing the Incredible Hulk role.
And I saw things, Okeechobee, Indian River, Immokalee. I used to be in those towns when I was about 12 years old, and I was loading watermelons, but I knew my money went in my front pocket, and there was a lot of criminals who was around. I knew how to handle myself, and I never, as a result, I never got in any fights. Now, my brother Floyd, he's 3 years older than me. He loved to gamble, argue, fight. I didn't. And it was a guy, he ran out of money. He had a snub-nosed 38 and a shoulder holster. So I bought it from him because he was dead broke. And my brother Floyd, gambling, when you win all the money, they won't let you walk. You got to keep playing. And I knew how to get Floyd out of the place. And I don't know, it could have been like a hero role, but I quietly sat down there and I took out my 30, took the bullets out of it, put them back in, and dropped the gun down. And I said, Floyd, let's go. But everybody knew it's loaded. Yeah. Now, I would never really shoot anybody, but if you give me a choice, you ain't gonna harm my brother. So I played the hero role like that. I could sit around and watch Floyd gamble and make certain that he'd get out alive. And everybody knew if you jump Floyd, I'm gonna be on you. So, but it wasn't a lot of crime in Brookfield. It was food. I mean, if you had some hogs, cow, we may borrow your hog. And it was fun. We'll take him and skin him and cook him and clean him up, bring him home, because food was our main thing.
So y'all was stealing cows.
Yeah, we've done
hogs.
that. Yeah, we've done that. Now, if you don't take the whole cow, when you shoot him, you just cut off a leg and put it in a crocus tag and bring the leg home.
Well, that makes sense. It's easier to carry a leg home than a whole cow.
But there was no drugs in there. Only thing that was illegal whiskey there, but there was nothing we did. Everything was tied in with food. Yeah.
Which describes something interesting. It just shows us the change in eras and times.
Yeah.
In your era, drugs wasn't really prevalent.
There was no drugs in it.
Whatever you was stealing was petty,
Food.
little stuff,
Well, I don't know. I think a cow owner would take you stealing his cow or killing his cow just as serious as someone would take you stealing their car. So it just was a different type
It
of
was
crime.
different.
Yeah.
Different crime,
But
I
Monty
mean,
describes his level of trouble wasn't really trouble because, first of all, he grew up in a country town where
Yes.
there wasn't a lot of stuff to get into
No.
versus, the more advanced city you grow up in,
Yes.
you tend to get into more bull crap because there's a lot more in front of you to grab at, versus, they kind of had to make trouble versus.
Yeah.
Well, again, I think this is what Means is getting at.
Right.
Let's say, okay, in your town, in the country, you program, okay, if I'm hungry, it's okay to go steal a cow.
Yeah.
But
Just the leg.
the danger is, again, if you are programmed with that mentality and you take it into adulthood, the crime elevates.
Right.
It goes from stealing a cow to stealing other things. And
Right.
again, the emphasis here is that we take these behaviors, we take these roles from our adolescent years into our adult years, and we live them out. We play out these scripts, and they are much more, again, I emphasize, much more punitive than they were for us as children. He goes on too. He talks about the hero role. He talks about the rebel role. He also talks about the caregiver roles. As I read this, I mean, I just literally just saw pictures of my community that I grew up in and many communities that exist today all around the United States and beyond the United States, where you see young children, and in many cases it's not because of their own doing, it's because of poverty. It may be because the father is missing in the home, that they are forced to take on these roles at a young age, whether it's the hero, I got to protect and provide for my family any means necessary. The rebel role, I'm not abiding by rules, I'm going to do what I want to do. But then he talks about the caretaker. I know there are many children who I'm in elementary school and middle school, and they're bearing the responsibility. This is happening right now, every day in our communities, where grade school and middle school children are bearing the responsibility of making sure the other siblings are taken care of, making sure things in the house are taken care of, because mama is working 2 jobs. And you are programmed to play that role, and then you carry that role once again with you into an adulthood. And in your adulthood, you don't even realize it, but you're trying to be a caretaker to everyone. And in many cases, you're so busy trying to be a caretaker for everyone else that you neglect yourself. I mean, when you think about what we're seeing on the television, what we've experienced in our own childhood and adulthood, we see children at a young age having to take on these roles, and they don't just leave them in grade school. They carry them into their adult life. And sometimes it has a negative impact on how they live, and you're not even conscious of it. Some of you right now, you played the caretaker role as a child. You had that forced upon you, and you're an adult now, and you're still playing that role, and sometimes it's to your detriment. you played the hero role and you're still playing that role. You have the cape on, you're trying to save everyone, when the truth is, every time someone has a fire, or every time, every time somebody situation is, a life is on fire, you don't have to be the fireman, but if it's been programmed in you, you can be living out and still playing these roles, and they're having a negative impact on your life, and you're not conscious of it. Think about that, men who are watching this here. Did you have to play the hero role as a child, as a teenager? Did you play the rebel role? Did you play the caretaker? And you're still playing those roles in your adult life, in your adult years, and it's having a negative impact on you. Did you have something else you want to say?
Yeah, I got a question, Pastor. So when we look at what Mr. Means is describing, and I think about, by me being incarcerated before my life and walking across so many people that lived life what was very unfortunate, much more than I was. How do you escape? In other words, we were raised to fear God. You gonna go to church. It's 2 rules I hated in our house: that we had to be home before the street lights come on when other friends were out there still playing. And if you go to Skate Town Saturday night, you can stay as long as you wanna, but you going to church Sunday morning, But when it gets further than that, when you are unfortunate and you become a product of your environment, whereas you're one of those kids, boy or girl, that you came up in an era where mama was on crack. She's selling her body in and out the house, giving away the food stamps for y'all to eat, and then at some point she's so strung out, well, we ain't eating, and so now we got to do any and everything we could to survive. And we kids, we don't know nothing else but go out there and steal something, or we become a product of everything we've had to endure coming up. And we wasn't raised to go to church, because obviously mama ain't going to no church. How, I feel so bad, because I wonder, how does a person escape that reality, as Mr. Means talks about, when from a strength perspective, a higher power perspective, it's almost like life has to happen to them for them to try to find out who God is. You know what I mean?
Well, he talks about, and we're going to get into that, some steps to take to move towards becoming healthier. And healthy is a word that I like to use. I intentionally overuse it because I know this to be true. Healthy things grow, unhealthy things don't. It doesn't matter what you're talking about, whether you're talking about a business, relationship, work, whatever it is. That's a fundamental truth. Healthy things grow, unhealthy things don't. And if you have unhealthy programming in you, again, I'm repeating myself intentionally for those men who are viewing and those men who will view this conversation. If you have negative programming in you, if you're living out a negative script that was written and created during your adolescent years, during your younger years, and you're still living and playing out that script in your adult life, you have to confront it. You have to acknowledge it. He moves from talking about roles to recordings. Mm-hmm. Now he says, in addition to the rules we learn and the roles we play, we may have shame-based parental messages recorded in our mind. Again, metaphorically speaking, the mind is a place where we store so many thoughts. The mind is where we're programmed to believe and see life through certain paradigms. And so I have in my life experience where things that were said to me at a young age, those recordings come back. And what I've had to do is to combat and address and confront those recordings. I'll say it again, you cannot defeat or overcome what you're unwilling to confront. And so, what recordings? I'm just asking questions to get us to think, and I hope you would think. What recordings was spoken into your life that was negative, and they're still playing? They may not play every day, but they may play periodically. Here's some. He gives us some examples. You'll never learn. Who do you think you are? Just look what you're doing to your mother. Stop acting like a baby. I'll give you something to cry about. You'll never be nothing. You'll never be good. You're too stupid. You're dumb. You're a sissy. I mean, there's so many things, words, and statements that are made and spoken into our life that are harmful, that are caustic and corrosive, and we have failed to confront them, and they continue to have negative impacts in our life. You have to, in the military, we call it controlling your internal dialogue. You have to confront those voices. You have to confront those thoughts. Whenever you have a negative thought that comes into your mind, a past recording of something that was spoken into your life that was negative, that was death and not life. The Word of God says that there's life and death in the tongue. And when someone speaks into our life negativity, when someone speaks into our life death, that which is not healthy, that which is not fruitful, that which is not positive, and it is replayed in our life, in our adulthood. Again, it impacts our life, and in most cases, it impacts us in a negative way. It impacts our self-esteem. It impacts how we view ourselves. It impacts how we view others. You have to confront that. It may sound strange. It may sound crazy. Speak back to it. I know. When I was a kid, I was told, and I heard it said many times, people who talk to themselves are crazy. Let me suggest to you this here. You have to be a little crazy to confront some of the programming that has been programmed in your mind. For me personally, when I have negative thoughts, I speak back to it. I confront it. Just like I'm talking to you, like we're having a conversation. I speak in an audible voice back to those thoughts. I confront those thoughts because I've learned this, and that is, if you have negative thoughts that are programmed in your mind and they come back and they are like a repeated recording or a broken record, and when you hear them, when they revisit you, they cause you to feel negative. They take you to a dark place. It prohibits you from being who you are. They cause you to be reluctant, to be shy, to be afraid. You have to confront them. In other words, you cannot allow a negative thought to run free and unchecked in your mind. And so I challenge you to start speaking back to those thoughts, those recordings, and it will help you. Let me share with you some things, how we're doing on time. Let me share with you some things that suggest that we do to help us rewrite our life script, and then we'll wrap up our conversation tonight. He says, rewrite the rules. If you have some negative rules that you was given in your past that's having a negative impact, rewrite them. Rescript the roles. if you are playing a role that is having a negative impact in your life. Rewrite the roles and reprogram your recordings. What means is saying and what this conversation tonight is about. It is about you, one, confronting every negative thought from your past that is impacting your present and rewriting the script. You have the power to rewrite the script. You have the power to rewrite what has been programmed in your mind, how you should think, how you should behave and live life. I hope this discussion tonight was insightful. I hope it challenges you to sit down in a quiet place or look in the mirror and ask yourself that question. Is there any scripts in my life that I'm living, that I'm playing out, that are negative, that I need to rewrite? Thank you for joining us tonight. I thank my guests, Monty Moore and Maurice Shazier. And again, thank you for tuning in. I hope our discussion tonight helps you to be a better man, to be a better husband, a better father, a better human. Thank you for joining us for Man to Man. We'll see you again, same time next month. Have a champion week the rest of your week.